My name is Megan. I'm with the Alzheimer's Association. I have been with the association the last 8 years. So if you've seen me before, oh boy, yay. I'm really excited to be here today to share with you a plethora of information. As I said, local resources we'll be sharing today, support groups, education, plethora of options for you to learn more about working with an individual who has some form of dementia specifically. We'll be talking with Amy from Dementia Friendly Iowa, who will share with you a lot of great ways that you can continue your involvement. And then, as I mentioned, the Scott County Health Department will be speaking as well. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up today was all of the connections that there are. If you walk away with one thing, we want you to know that you're not alone in this process. There's wonderful human beings in a lot of organizations across the Quad Cities who are here to help. Big question, small question. Just wonder how to connect with this business, or, hey, I'm just trying to learn a strategy here and there. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure that you're not alone in this journey specifically. There are a variety of support groups that are available. What's great about a support group is you can talk to other people who are going through the same thing as you or have gone through the same thing as you. There's over 25 of them in this area alone. So it's great if you would go to the community resource finder and you would find it there. Recommend calling ahead of time just to be sure as well that they're still meeting at that location on that date, as we have a variety of volunteers who are helping lead all of these support groups in advancing our mission. The other thing here were education and community programs. Those as well are located on our website, alz.org/Iowa. And it's awesome. We have a ton of other educations that we could be providing for you during this time. So as I mentioned, local resources, these are all of the different groups that are here to help you along your journey. We included both Illinois and Iowa on here. As we know, the river is a weird thing that divides us, but it also brings connection at the same time. The Alzheimer's Association covers all 99 counties in Iowa. Specifically for the Iowa chapter, we have 6 counties in Illinois and we have 1 county in South Dakota. But we are nationwide. If you are looking for additional resources for people who are here as well, you have that list that is right there. So as I was mentioning, the alz.org/support is another great spot for you to learn more about the supportive resources that we have. We have an online community. So a lot of people like to join Facebook groups. That is fine. Just talk to someone if you have questions. That's the biggest thing that we want to talk about. At any point in time, if you have a question, you are more than welcome to call this helpline. It's in 24/7. We can translate in over 200 languages. If, for example, you call the helpline and you realize your loved one just woke up from their nap and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't speak to this person right now, ask them to schedule a time and they'll schedule a time to call you. Again, it's 24/7. So you can call when your loved one might be at respite or out with a friend, or again, maybe taking another nap. So I'm going to press it over to Amy, who's going to talk about Dementia Friendly Iowa.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Gutnick. I am a community specialist with Story Point Senior Living, which is an assisted living and memory care community in Bettendorf. But I'm here today as a volunteer for Dementia Friendly Iowa. So if you're not familiar, Dementia Friendly Iowa is, Dementia Friendly is actually a global organization that got started in the UK and has made its way over to the United States and really got going within Iowa within the last 10 years. And the goal of the organization is to increase empathy for people living with dementia, and also to increase understanding about the diagnosis and the disease process. So we offer educational or informational sessions throughout the community. So 30-minute or 60-minute sessions that will provide a little bit of what we're talking about today, some of the communication tips, and also just some additional information about what dementia is. So we want people to have a better understanding of that diagnosis so they can interact with those in the community. Another one of the big goals of Dementia Friendly Iowa is to, like I said, increase the empathy, but also take away that negative stereotype that very often comes along with a dementia diagnosis. So we'll kind of talk about today yes, it is a difficult diagnosis and it can be a hard time for families and caregivers, but there is still joy to be found for that individual and that family. So, we don't want to be all doom and gloom, when someone does receive a dementia diagnosis. One of the things we want to talk about is Alzheimer's disease is just one type of dementia. So it is the most common type of dementia, but there are other types of dementia as well. So that's something else that we focus on with Dementia Friendly, is helping people to understand that a lot of people don't understand those terms, right? That dementia is the umbrella term. Alzheimer's is one type of dementia, but there are other types and they present a little bit differently. So it's important to kind of understand those distinctions within the diagnosis. Other types of dementia can include Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal, vascular, and many, many more. So they have similar symptoms. They're not all the same. Basically, what we're talking about is a disease of the brain, but they're a little bit different. There are about 62,000 people living with dementia, and that's Alzheimer's Association statistic in the state of Iowa, right? And something that surprised me when I started getting involved with this group is that 80% of individuals with a dementia diagnosis are living out in the community, right? So they're not necessarily living in a senior living community like Story Point or Senior Star or communities like that. They're in their own homes with family support. So that means that all of us on a daily basis are interacting with individuals who may have a dementia diagnosis, whether that be at the grocery store, if you go to the Y, if you go to church, maybe at the hair salon, different places like this. So we're interacting with these individuals. We may not realize it. So that's another reason why we're trying to get these communication tips and this better understanding about dementia out into the community, because 80% of folks are living in the community. That also means that there are a lot of caregivers, whether those are family members, friends. There's often a lot of support that's needed for these individuals, and so we want to support these unpaid caregivers as well. So what is a dementia friend? So Dementia Friendly works to replace fear and misunderstanding about dementia with knowledge and compassion. So this is useful information whether you're a family member, a healthcare professional, a business owner, or a neighbor. You can make a meaningful difference through small actions that help people living with dementia feel included and respected. So like I said, we host 30 or 60-minute informational sessions, and we can do these sessions for, I've done them for church groups. I've done them for social clubs like Kiwanis or Rotary, things like that. We also do these programs for individual businesses if there's an interest. So if there's a business that works with a lot of older adults, they can really benefit from learning more about dementia and the communication tips. So for example, I have one coming up for like Kelly's Medical Supply. So any business, LivWell has gotten the Dementia Friendly designation. So by having 50% of their employees go through the informational session, they can, they're recognized as a dementia friendly business. And so then people living with dementia and their caregivers can seek those businesses out as they're looking for services. So some examples of organizations that could benefit, like I mentioned, faith communities, really any business where customer service is critical, such as home repair, vehicle repair, residential cleaning, retail, anything like that. So really any organization where the members often interact with, or the membership is made up primarily of older adults. So there's 5 key messages that Dementia Friendly focuses on that kind of form a foundation of how we communicate and interact with someone living with that diagnosis. So the first one is that dementia is not a typical part of the aging process. This is a common misconception. Although many people who have a dementia diagnosis are older, it doesn't mean everyone as they age will develop dementia. right? It is more common with people over the age of 65. Obviously, we all become maybe a little bit forgetful as we age. We may have some cognitive changes as we age, but that does not mean that everyone as they age will have a dementia diagnosis. The symptoms of dementia are more noticeable and they will worsen over time. And they really cause like a disruption to someone's day-to-day life. Dementia is caused by diseases of the brain. So as we discussed earlier, dementia is the name for a collection of symptoms. And the symptoms can be brought about by a number of diseases that cause changes in the brain. As we said, Alzheimer's disease is the most common, and it changes both the chemistry and the structure of the brain, causing brain cells to physically die off. But dementia is not just about memory problems. This is another big misconception. There are other symptoms that can go along with it. A lot of times the memory problems are kind of the most obvious or what presents first, especially with an Alzheimer's diagnosis. It can be the first sign, but there's more to it than that. There can be changes in mood or personality. There can be changes in decision-making processes, things like that. So there's more to it than just memory problems. And it is possible to continue to have a good quality of life with a dementia diagnosis. So, a lot of us have kind of an image in our mind of what a dementia diagnosis looks like. And a lot of times that image can be very bleak. So it can be surprising to learn that many people with dementia continue to drive, they may continue to work, and obviously are still a valuable part of their community. They can continue to socialize and lead active, healthy lives, continue their hobbies and enjoy their friendships. But it takes support, right? It takes support of their family and friends and our larger community. And there is more to the person than the dementia diagnosis. So in the same way that we would look at someone who maybe has a cancer diagnosis or someone who is diabetic, that we see the person first. There is more to the person than their diagnosis. So that's important to remember. We want to refer to people living with dementia as someone living with dementia, not they're more to them just their diagnosis. So using that person first language to affirm that they are a person first and foremost.
Discussing specifically how dementia affects communication. As Amy was talking about, those who are diagnosed with a form of dementia have something that is happening with their thinking, their memory, and their behavior. And it is a progressive process. Right now, what is great is there are treatments available for those who are in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease specifically. So I always recommend talk to your physician, neurologist about what that could look like if that is a journey that you would like to go on. Otherwise, we know that a typical progression with the disease, they say 4 to 8 years, but as I know Amy can attest, and I can too, I mean, we have people who are 20 years down the road who are going through this process. And so communication is that early symptom that a lot of people tend to notice right away. Something isn't quite as normal as in it would be from a day-to-day occurrence. So the fact that this is a brain disease, what's happening is these neurons are firing at each other, and all of a sudden there is a breakage. That breakage, when that dies, that's not coming back. So again, the treatment specifically is attacking that biology of the disease, and it's making sure that we can keep those neurons firing at each other. But if they can't anymore, that thought, that task, that experience is missing. So oftentimes people who are going through the disease process want to refer back to a long time ago, right? They're going back into the file cabinet of their lives and plucking out something that makes sense. Because right now, it's so hard. And again, I don't have dementia. I don't know what it's like to not be able to think and recall and live day to day, but it's got to be hard. It has to be so hard. They're not choosing this. You didn't choose that as a caregiver either. But it's one of those where it might be finding difficulty finding the right word. Repeating familiar words or phrases. That is the number one thing. Repetition, 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 repetition. And as a caregiver, we got to be like, yeah, Tuesday at 2. 30 seconds later, yeah, Tuesday at 2. right? And I get it. I've been there. I lived the disease journey. I have volunteers who have Alzheimer's disease, and they volunteer at our office because they are incredible humans who are going through something that they didn't choose, but they still have really great talents. And again, I'll listen to what it is and be like, oh, cool. And then about halfway through, she might go, did you hear that story already? No. Gosh, it's such a good one. I don't know who you told it to, but it wasn't me, right? So it's not easy. It's also exhausting. I do totally recognize that. I brought some take care of yourself brochures as well, because you got to take care of yourself in this process here. But describing that an item when they can't find the word for it, right? Watch. They might call it a timepiece. They might call it a clock. They might call it a wrist watch, or that thing that tells me where I'm supposed to be. Or again, go get the broom and they come back with a mop and some spray, and you're like, oh, the broom. Okay. So really with communication, again, they're getting, might be especially in the beginning stages, it's small little things, but over time, we'll talk about ways that you can accommodate in the process there. So again, maybe speaking their native language. I remember a resident that when I was in senior living lived with us, and she spoke Spanish as if we all spoke Spanish. I mean, again, she went back in her file cabinet, and that's what was familiar to her. So we had to figure out, okay, how do we best care for that person when their native language isn't our native language? Speaking less often. Could you imagine if you get asked a question and you don't know the answer over and over again? So with that, people start to lose their voice in the process. But again, the voice is there. We want them to still be able to amplify it. We as caregivers have to figure out how to modify what we're doing, because again, as Amy was talking about, dementia is not going away, and it's that collection of symptoms, and it's thinking, memory, and behavior that it's specifically affecting. So as Amy also was talking about, this person-centered approach is really where we hone in on in making sure that we are always keeping that person front and center in their journey here. Knowing as much about the person. Oftentimes, you know the answer to the question before they even ask it, right? That is what we're trying to say, is digging into their lives and trying to also help them be that mouthpiece in communication specifically. The biggest thing is, as Amy was mentioning though earlier, is making sure they remain and contain the dignity that they have. These individuals, again, I've worked with people who have their doctorate degrees, and now they're having a hard time tying their shoes. That's the kind of thing that we want to make sure that we can continue to help them and guide them in their journey in that process there. Understanding, or saying words, I was going to say, they want to feel included in the process. So even if the person might be standing there next to you, make sure that they're not being, you're here, they're here. Make sure that you're not like standing in front of them. Make sure that they're a part of it. You might have to ask a simple question. Or again, friends might have to say, so did you have a great day today? Make it a yes or a no question, as opposed to tell me about what you did all day. Because regurgitating all of that is exhausting and takes a lot of work. And then validating their feelings. It is totally okay. Please validate their feelings. And be like, I don't know what you're going through, but I want to be here to help. I want to be here to make sure that I'm giving you what you need. And so incorporating an individual with dementia, especially if it's in the earlier stages of the disease, that is so important to understand. They can tell you right now, do you want me to answer for you? I can say yes or no. Do you want me to help you work through this? Yes or no. Those are the types of things, though, that we want to make sure that they're always at the center, and then everything else revolves around that person that's there.
Yeah, so there's a few more things we want to keep in mind here. And the first one is that you want to always be aware of your own feelings. So a person living with dementia may not be able to understand exactly the words that you're saying, but I can tell you from personal experience, they will always understand if you are frustrated or if you are angry, or so they will understand your tone of voice, and they will understand how you are feeling. So this is something that we educate our caregivers at StoryPoint on quite a bit, that your tone of voice is really important. So you want to use positive, friendly facial expressions. You want to be patient and supportive. Let the person know that you are listening and that you are trying to understand. If they're struggling to come up with the right word, if they're struggling to express themselves, have that patience and let them know that you are trying to understand what they're communicating. It can take someone living with dementia, 15 to 20 seconds to respond to something that you have asked them. And many of us in our day-to-day interactions, we tend to speak quickly. We aren't comfortable with a 15-second silence, right? So what do we do if somebody doesn't respond after 5 or 10 seconds? We repeat the question. We say it in a different way. So for the person with dementia, that is, now they're back at square one, right? You've added some confusion to that by adding more words in. So you have to be a little bit comfortable and kind of live in that silence and give them that time to respond. You always want to try to connect and don't correct. So nobody wants to be told all day, every day that they're wrong or that they're doing things incorrectly, right? So rather than telling the person that what they're saying is incorrect, you want to listen and try to find the meaning in what they're saying or what they're expressing. Avoid arguing. If you've ever tried to argue with someone living with dementia, you know that it doesn't go very well. So you always want to try to avoid arguing as much as possible. It can make things worse. It can increase agitation very quickly. So, for example, if they were to ask you about a pet that maybe like to Megan's point, they're reaching way back in the file cabinet. This is a pet that maybe died a long time ago, and that you're not going to tell them, your dog died 5 years ago, or whatever it may be. You can live in their reality and go along with their storyline that maybe the dog is at the groomer right now, things like that. An 80-year-old person tells you they had lunch with their grandmother today. You can say, share some memories with me about your grandmother growing up, things like that. You're not going to say, your grandmother isn't with us anymore. Nonverbal cues or offering a guess is another tip that you can use. So once you've kind of given that person that time to respond and they're really not coming up with that word or phrase, but you have an idea of what they might be trying to communicate, you can go ahead and try and fill in those blanks a little bit for them and offer a guess. Also, nonverbal cues can be helpful if someone is really struggling with communication and they're struggling to understand the words that you're saying. If you can, point in a direction that you want them to go rather than using words. Megan talked a little bit about this, but we want to keep the person involved, talk directly to them. I see this a lot if you have a married couple. One person has dementia and the other person does not. People will begin to speak only to the spouse that does not have the dementia diagnosis. I've even seen doctors and medical professionals do this. So it's really important to, like she said, keep that person part of the conversation. As much as they're still able to participate. The desire to communicate with others, that never goes away. You will always, people will always have that desire to communicate. So it's helpful to be on the same physical level as someone. So if someone was in a wheelchair or just if they're seated, to be able to get on their same level, to be able to make that eye contact, speak directly face to face. I'm going to speak slowly and clearly. Like I said, many of us speak very quickly. You really do have to slow down the cadence of your speech and speak clearly. You want to use a calm tone of voice. Use a voice that supports the meaning of your message, but try to speak calmly to reduce, that agitation. Acknowledge what the person says. If you ask the person a question, sometimes they may not directly answer it. They may start speaking about something else. You want to acknowledge what they did say or what they were able to communicate, even if it was unrelated to the topic. Help them to engage in meaningful conversation. continue to talk with the person about topics that may interest them. Like we talked about, memories and things that happened way in the past are often still easily accessible. So, talk to them. If they have had a hobby or something they've loved all their life, I will almost guarantee will be able to speak to you about that very late into the disease progressions. Another tip, kind of talking about relationships and the family and that sort of thing, to avoid questioning the person. So let's say you have a granddaughter or someone coming to visit that maybe hasn't seen their grandparent in quite a while. So when you bring that person in, you're not going to say, do you remember who this is? Don't quiz, don't do a test for them. It's better to, bring the person in and say, oh, here's your granddaughter, and provide them with the name. You can provide them with those details so they don't have to struggle to come up with it, and make a visit a little bit easier for everybody.
So allowing that time to respond, as we said, 15, 20 seconds there. Not speaking for the person, offering them choices. So in the beginning, it might be as simple as, hey, this morning we're going to mass. We want to make sure that you're ready to go. And you let that person go get themselves dressed. Perfect. It might be, hey, this morning we're going to head off to church. And they come back and they don't come back. Now, imagine all of the clothing choices that we have in front of us. There's a ton of them, and they bring out the exact same shirt and pants that they wore yesterday. And you're like, of all the things you have. Again, it's familiar to that person. So ways to modify it might be, hey, come on, today after church, we're going to go out for breakfast. Let's get something a little bit nicer. Let me help you, right? So you can help them pick out what it might be that they want to wear that day. As the disease progresses, you got to get, again, smaller, smaller, smaller. The clothing out of the closet, it disappears, so there's not as many options. You take away the clothes to make sure they can't wear the same thing again. But what if their shirt's inside out? Is it really the end of the world if their shirt's inside out? Well, would they be embarrassed if their shirt was inside out? Step one. But then is it worth a fight to change it? Maybe, maybe not. But these are the types of things that you can consider when you're having those conversations with your loved one. You might have to skip the whole, we're going to church, we're going somewhere afterwards, and say, let's leave, this or this. You then might have to help them put on all of those pieces that you just set out. But the less, the better. Shrinking their world, what around them is shrinking as well. Connecting in the moment, so talking about what's happening around you. Everything that you're doing along this journey as their memory is disappearing, you're having in moments. Your moments might be 5 seconds. Your moments may have lasted to the next day. Your moments may be something that you're like, oh my gosh, we did this 3 weeks ago. How, of all of the things, they can't remember this, but they can remember that. It's the beauty of the brain. It is the craziest, most confusing process that at the Alzheimer's Association, we do research to figure out all of those moving pieces. But it's hard. It's hard to figure out all of that stuff. But limiting distractions, that's the big thing here. So what I did bring with me today was these cards. And these are lifelines. So please, please, please take them with you. So it says, thank you for your patience and kindness for my companion who has dementia. Any unusual behavior from my companion is due to the disease. I appreciate you understanding this during this time. We want you to be social. Humans are not designed to be isolated with each other. But when you go out for supper, we were at Texas Roadhouse last night. It is loud, right? Wait till they go to do the song before they dance. It's crazy. The menu is in font this big, right? There's pictures on there. There's a family that's literally sitting on the other side of this quarter wall. There's so many moving pieces. But again, if you keep that person at the center of your consciousness and understanding, you go, okay, what do they love, right? They might point to a picture, and if it's, the country fried steak, you're like, I've never eaten that in their whole life. But they may see the picture and go, that looks really good. But you could be like, hey, would you like to do, the filet tonight? Or whatever that might be. Those are the types of things that you're adapting, but this is a great resource you can hand to your waitress so that when your waitress asks that person, looks them in the eyes and says, what would you like to drink? And they don't respond, she can have that, oh, it's the disease. You don't have to have that awkwardness, and you don't necessarily have to pipe in for them right away. But if they look at you because you're their trusted companion, they'll look at you and you'll go, Diet Coke. And then they can say Diet Coke. But this is definitely something to take with. It's great to have at doctor's appointments when, again, that person is checking in and the gal at the desk thinks they don't know they have the disease, and they're going to ask them 75 questions. You might not know any of that. And who wants to go into a doctor's appointment with an agitated individual with dementia? Yeah, didn't think anyone did. So those are the types of things. Turning the TV off if you're going to have a conversation with them, making sure that they're not facing a window so they could look outside instead of looking toward you and at you. Those step-by-step, eye level, getting down to their level to speak to them slowly and waiting is really where it's at.
We talked about this a little bit already. We can go through these kind of quickly, but like we said, the positive body language and facial expressions can really help with that nonverbal communication. The hand gestures, pointing in a direction you want someone to go if they're struggling to understand what you're trying to say. The eye contact is very important to show that you're listening and trying to understand. If the person is comfortable with a gentle touch, that can help to ground them to the conversation and keep their attention in that way. So you can consider holding their hand, that sort of thing. And you can also use touch, sight, sounds, smells, and tastes as other ways to communicate with the individual. A few more do's and don'ts in conversation. It's helpful to know you can change up your wording just slightly and have set the person up for success. So consider your approach. First of all, you want to come from the front. Sometimes peripheral vision is a struggle, so you can frighten somebody if you're coming around the side. Approach from the front, get on their level, identify yourself so they're not trying to figure out who you are, and use their preferred name to get their attention. You can provide a cue rather than a command. So instead of saying something like, you need to go through the checkout, you can say the checkout lane is right here. And you also want to avoid confusing or vague statements. So you can say something a little bit more direct, like, why don't you come over here? Your coffee is ready, instead of saying it's ready. So they don't remember what it is, even if you just had a conversation about it. You could turn negatives into positives. So instead of saying don't go there, say let's go here. And we already talked about avoid quizzing. Do you remember when? Do you remember this? Do you remember that? Reminiscing from the past can be helpful and enjoyable, but not in the form of a quiz. You can use written notes, and pictures are great reminders too. Okay.
Again, when communicating to individuals, it's also really important here to share your feelings with that person. As long as again, you're having this one-on-one conversation with them, it can be hard to talk about a lot of these topics, right? It can be hard to talk about the disease progression or, again, finances, what, again, the journey could look like, because we don't know what it could look like. We have an idea, but we don't know exactly. But involving that person and both of you sharing your feelings and being open about it is by far the best way in the very, very early stages of the disease. So you can, again, incorporate and include that person's perspective and feelings and thoughts in that process there. Staying connected with them along their journey as well. So giving you a chance to talk about the support that you might be needing to give them as a caregiver. That part's really important too, especially in the earlier stages of the disease. In regards to prepping for healthcare appointments, preparing ahead of time is really important here. Especially when it comes to doctor's appointments. If your doctor's appointment is 6 months down the road from when you had your last appointment, I recommend keeping a log. You're always welcome to call with questions. You're always welcome to do that. But if you're going, this interesting thing that might have happened, write down the date, write down the time, write down what happened. And it's helpful too. Like, was there something that was kind of off before that? What happened after that event? Those types of things are really helpful, because in the instance when you're having that doctor's appointment, you got a very short window to meet then with the physician. You can provide these notes ahead of time so that they have those when they walk into your appointment. So keeping that log is really important there. And again, communicating with your family and friends and saying, hey, this is what is happening. This is where we are at in the journey. For those of you who don't share where you're at in the journey, they know something's wrong. They know something's up. It might be the fact that you and your loved one aren't showing up for Tuesday club like you always do. They know something's up. Being honest about it. I've never had one person ever say, I'm so mad they told me about this. No, that's how you can be understanding. That's how you can be empathetic. That's how you can learn more about the disease process. So sharing it with people is really, really important there. And that's how you develop that system itself. And again, explaining the details, taking notes, all of those types of things really do help if they'll let you record the conversation, things along those lines. Any sort of little tips and tricks. Some people say, hey, I'm going to leave the Post-it notes in the rooms exactly where I think this person's going to look for them. Again, maybe you ran out to the store. You might leave 4 or 5 notes. You might have to, again, put it by the door. Whatever that might be, you're adapting to how that communication process is going.
So I'm Carol Birch, and I work with the Scott County Health Department. I'm a registered dental hygienist, been in dentistry about 35 years plus, and in public health for almost 10 years now. I'm going to read a little bit from Stephanie put this slide together for me, and I love the wording. So I'm going to read some of it and then I'll elaborate. But the program that I work with is called I Smile Silver. So this is a free service, no cost to anyone, through the Scott County Health Department. We help all adults, but really a huge portion of our work is for seniors or older adults. We help them connect with dental care and oral health resources. Many seniors face challenges when it comes to finding a dentist, understanding their insurance coverage, or accessing affordable care. We work to help people bridge those gaps. We want to be that person that will take a minute and do a 3-way call with an insurance company to find out what are the benefits and then who is in the network and how can we help you get there. We can do screenings to help people learn about what's going on in their mouths. We can just give some simple advice over the phone. I think this is a great venue for that. I know that in my own experiences, seeing folks with dementia, from knowing them before and during their journey, seeing a woman who is very meticulous about her oral health and knowing all the things that were important to her, seeing the progression of, not brushing teeth at all towards the end. I'd love to be a helpful resource when it comes to information with oral health and those suffering with dementia. We know that our oral health is very important to our overall health. There's a lot of things that connect, and there are things that are two-way streets. Again, we would love to be that resource for you to help you walk through some of that as well.
Hello, I'm Christina McDonough from the Scott County Health Department. I work directly with businesses and communities in Scott County to promote health and wellness. So it can look like a variety of different things. Sometimes it's meeting with a workplace business, conducting an assessment to see what they're doing to promote employee wellness when it comes to nutrition, physical activity, tobacco-free, chronic disease management, and leadership. And then I can also help with walk audits. So sometimes a business may contact me if their employee parking lot is across the street from the workplace and they want to improve their employee safety and pedestrian crossing safety. I can assist with that. I can assist with connecting them with a lot of resources. So whether it's work-life balance concern or anything that general health and wellness, Scott County Health Department, we're very well connected. So it might be we can get you in touch with our I Smile or I Smile Silver program for dental needs. We can connect you to Dementia Friendly. We're here as that resource for you. And then also just wanted to let everybody know that this is something that Scott County Health Department, we know that aging is something we're all going to do, right? It's a good thing. It's a good sign that we're getting older. Dementia doesn't necessarily have to be a part of it, but we're here to support along the way as much as we can. I'm both personally and professionally very interested in it. So wanted to let you know that Carol and I are both here to help with any connections that you might need as well.
I'm Erica Schroeder, Serta. I'm with LivWell, and I really appreciate your time here today, and we hope that you find this time valuable. You've had a lot of great resources here, and so just kind of to wrap things up, I wanted to share with you that at LivWell, we offer free information and referral services. We connect you to the right resources, and so at LivWell, we help families that encounter recent diagnosis with dementia. Maybe there's progression, and we can help at all stages. And so we help families through this disease of dementia all the time. And we look at your needs individually, and organically we help you determine some next steps and perhaps a plan. And that can include anything from just looking at your lifestyle, perhaps your budget, your needs, your quality of life. And we can put that all together and come up with a plan that suits you. That could include looking at different senior living communities. We match those options up that are most appropriate for you. And instead of you going to your phone or the internet and trying to Google information, and you might go down the rabbit hole of the internet and inadvertently release your contact information, we keep your contact information confidential. And we can instead schedule tours with you. We go with you on the tours, help you ask the questions that you didn't know that you might need to ask and know, and really help you evaluate whatever those next steps are for you. You never have to do this alone, and we can really help guide you because we are there with all of these different communities all the time and have those resources handy. So we work on your schedule. We know, sometimes nights and weekends are a bit more opportune for some, and so we're available there. And we can help connect you after this presentation. So our office is in this building. It's really right around the corner. So we're very local. We can connect with you by phone. We can connect with you in our office, or whatever makes the most sense. We can do a home visit with you if you like. If you are here representing a business, then we also have LivWell Works program, and that's where we can deliver a lunch and learn presentation similar to this, and we can help to present that to your team, and then help your employees identify if there's caregiving needs to plan ahead, so it doesn't have to be reacting in a time of crisis, or at least reduce any stress that there might be currently, and better able to handle the challenges of the day within your job and within your home life as well, and helping assist your loved one.